Hello, gear nerds of the internet. This monstrosity is the Audio Research SP16 High Definition Preamp. We're going to talk about this coming up.
Six in the morning.
So, the SP16 High Definition with an R with a circle around it. What? So, the R with a circle around it means that a trademark has been registered with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. What? I don't know if the trademark is for high definition. Did Audio Research try to trademark the term high definition? Or is it for model SP16? Or is it for model SP16 high definition? I don't know, but that is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Anyway, I just thought I would get that out of the way. If you notice that R and you're like, hey, what the? Like I did. So Audio Research. There are two, in my opinion, great American audio brands. Audio Research and Macintosh. These are sort of the Ford and Chevy of tube amplifiers. Even though they do make solid state as well, they're mostly known for their tube amplifiers. And interestingly enough, Audio Research kind of has the opposite sort of sound signature as a Macintosh. Macintosh tend to be pretty warm and not very detailed. Audio Research tends to be pretty cold and very detailed. The Rev knows what I'm talking about. Anyway, so let's talk about features on this thing. So I should probably plug it in. Hold on. So you power it on. It has no switches. No switches. All push buttons. You turn it on. Since this is a tube preamplifier, the tubes have to warm up. So as you can see, the mute button flashes for, I believe it's 30 seconds before this is fully operational. When it comes up, it will be in mute mode and the volume will be at 1. It doesn't remember your volume settings, which is kind of a bummer, but it's not that big of a deal. Boom, there we are. It does remember your input selection, so that's nice. As I said, default is mute. I just powered it off.
$2,000 years later.
And we are back on. Sorry about that, folks. So, power button, mute, in mute, unmute to get this thing going. And then adjust your volume. Now this volume has an interesting functionality where, as you can see, it's numbered 1 through 20. However, there are incremental steps between each number. So you have to press the button multiple times to go through the numbers. A lot of people complain about this, saying that they can't find a setting on the volume. It goes from too low to too high. I think they're just pressing the button too fast because you can really get in there pretty good. I don't have any complaints about being able to control the volume properly, but what do I know? I think mostly that's for people with CD players. I don't own a CD player anymore. I gave it to my son. He has 2 CDs. I'm using this with my turntable. So you have other options other than mute. You also have this proc, which sends all of the signal into the processor. I think that's a home theater thing. I don't know. So then the next option you have is mono, but there is no corresponding mono button. You need to use the remote for that. This nice little piece of plastic. Nice being, you know, sarcastic. None of these functions work if it's in proc. You got to take it out of proc, and then you can go to mono. That's annoying. Never press the proc button unless you know what it does. And then you have your inputs. You have Pho, which is phono, because this has an onboard phono preamp, and it's actually tube-based, which is cool. This is the SP6. There's also an SP6L that is all line inputs. This has no L, because this has the phono section. I think the phono section was an extra $500, which seems a little excessive for an onboard phono preamp, but again, it is tube-based, so theoretically it's good. However, it is only good with moving magnet or high output moving coils, neither of which are currently installed on my turntable, so I don't know about that. But there's other options for that. We'll talk about that later. So then, you have your CD, tuner, video, aux inputs. And again, the mono is great. I don't know why more amplifier companies aren't including the mono, because if you have a jazz collection, or if you're buying the Beatles mono stuff, you need a mono button. See, mononucleosis, all better. Mononucleosis, all better. Why aren't they putting mono buttons on preamps anymore? I don't know. You have an opinion on that? Put it in the comments below. I know it seems like an antiquated thing, but they're releasing more mono records now than probably since, the 70s. Maybe even the 60s, I don't know. Before I was buying records, for sure. So that is the front. Let's look at the back. Boop. We're in the back. You have your phono. It's your ground lug for your phono. And then you have your inputs. You have record level out. And then you have two main outputs. So this is going to be a fixed, and these are going to be variable outputs. You have your input for your power. You have a 3 amp fuse, slow blow. You have a 12 volt out to connect to another device. I don't know what people use that crap for. Let's look on the inside, shall we? Oh, I think we shall. So the top has a highly perforated cover, which is nice for ventilation. Ta-da! You have 3 12AX7s for your preamp tubes for your preamp, and then you have 3 12AX7s for your phono preamp. And then you have a mixture of REL and WEMA capacitors, amongst other things. You have your traditional Audio Research quality PCB. I don't believe this is a hybrid. I believe this is all tube in the signal path. I believe. Let me know if I'm wrong. But I don't think that I am. And then, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know how much I love bottom access. So you can fix and replace components out of this without much hassle. Open this up, desolder, pop it in, solder it. You don't have to worry about taking everything apart to get to the board. Pretty sweet. Let's talk about the sound. So, as I said, Audio Research is kind of known for being kind of cold, kind of sterile, kind of very non-tube-like. However, this is kind of known as not being that. The SP16 is more on the tube side of things than most Audio Research stuff. Definitely not sterile. It definitely sounds a little bit tubey, more so than I think the other 2 preamps that I have, which I will pull out in a second here. This thing, I was kind of blown away by it. I was not expecting too much. I used to have an Audio Research VSI 55 integrated tube stereo that had a similar sort of functionality here. Like this is all kind of the same, except that front end of that, I believe, was a passive preamp, whereas this is obviously active. But man, does this create a huge, gorgeous, lush soundstage like I have never ever heard in my system. It is incredible. It is lifelike without being overbearing. It's detailed without being abusive to my ears. This thing sounds quite incredible. Quite incredible. This thing is really quite balanced across all frequencies. The overall presentation might be slightly warm in the mid-range, but barely. Yeah, I just said warm about an audio research product, which sounds antithetical to audio research at this point, but it is what it is. The highs aren't pronounced, but I wouldn't say they're rolled off. The bass extends quite deep without sounding bloated. The soundstage is wide and deep. The instruments really pop out of the background, even though it's not the darkest background of a preamp that I've heard. One of the things that sets this preamp from the other preamps that I've owned is the way that the instruments decay. It's something I've never thought of until I heard this preamp, but the way the preamp resolves the instruments, the way that they appear into the space of the soundstage and then decay off and trail out is kind of remarkable. Thus, I'm remarking on it. But, you know, there are some things I don't like. This remote, it is a bit cheap, as you might tell, it's plastic. This is the Freya remote. Schiit sells this thing for like $17. Audio Research doesn't sell this. And sometimes the buttons are a little hit or miss. From this range, it's pretty good. I don't know, maybe I'm full of it. It might be because when I got this thing was not really all that functional. And I had to take it apart and clean it out because I think someone spilled coffee or pop or something into it. Soda for you people who say soda. And Coke for those who say Coke. I actually ordered a replacement remote for this from some website called remotecontrolworld.eu, and that should be coming, I don't know, who knows, whenever you would expect mail from Eastern Europe to arrive in America. That's when I'll get it, and I will do a review on that separately. This is what it looks like. Doesn't look really less cheap than this. It actually looks cheaper than this one. But, you know, what are you going to do? I wish it had balanced inputs and outputs. At least outputs. That would be cool. It doesn't. The other thing, I wish the Phono section supported low output moving coil. That'd be cool. I mean, for the price that they were charging for that, you would think it would include that. I've actually been considering trying a step-up transformer with this thing. If anyone in the comments wants to relay their findings of step-up transformers and how they work, and if it's worthy going down that trail, let me know. And then, you know, this thing is huge. So I think when they last made this, which I think was about, I don't know, 18 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, I don't know. This was with the Phono section, $2,500. So in current economic situations, I would say that's about $1 million in today's money. Now, this was kind of like their low-end preamp. Doesn't sound low-end to me. You can usually get this, if you're lucky, for around like $1,200. I actually just saw one available for $1,200. So if you want one, email me and I'll tell you where I saw it, if it's still available. I more commonly see them around $1,600. I would totally recommend picking this up. If you have a solid state power amp like I do and you want to throw a little bit of tube goodness into it without it getting too syrupy, and if you want a huge holographic soundstage and you want vivid, lovely highs that you can just see You close your eyes and it literally feels like you're sitting in front of the instruments. This is your guy. I don't know that you could actually tell how huge it is based on my hand. I kind of have huge hands. However, let me pull out these other things so you can get an idea. That's the Quicksilver. That's the Schiit. These two are about the same size as this one. It's kind of crazy. So, he who will not be mentioned said he didn't like these switches. He didn't like the look of this Quicksilver. I don't know. I like the look of this. I don't like the look of this. Someone else said they love the look of this. I like the look of this in black better. Someone who I don't remember his name. Hopefully he's watching this video. If you are, hey, how's it going? Thanks for watching. He said that he has it in black. And I said that, yes, the Schiit stuff looks better in black, in my opinion. So you have three different aesthetics here. You have more of a sort of newer aesthetic. You have sort of an older aesthetic. And then you have the audio research aesthetic, which to me always kind of looked like technology from the 50s, which to me is cool. This looks like more from the 70s. This looks like it came out in the 2000s like it did. So sonically, this one beats these two hands down. I will briefly go over the differences in audio. So this one has sort of the thinnest sort of sound. It has maybe more detail, but it's flatter. Like this is super three-dimensional compared to these two. This one is probably the flattest, but the most detailed, the Quicksilver. This one, the Freya, has sort of the most narrow soundstage. It has punchier bass than this, but this goes lower in the frequency and higher in the frequency range than this does. This one does everything this does and this does, but it does it better than both of those combined. I came up with an interesting idea. Join me on a journey, people. And in that journey, we are going to install a bunch of capacitors into these two things. I'm going to try to take these and cram two of them in here. Four of them in here actually. Four of them in here. Two of them in here. And see if we can't improve the sound of these. Right now, replacing the caps in the Freya Plus particularly, but I don't have the Plus, I have the regular old Freya, is all the rage on the Schiit Facebook page. These suckers are going in there. Hopefully they fit. I measured it, I know they fit. And we'll see if I can make either one of these two livable or comparable to this. Because currently, after hearing this, I don't think there's any going back to those two. As much as I would like, because this thing costs way more than these two, and I would love to have more money in my pocket. However, the sound of this is just mesmerizing. It is mesmerizing. I was hoping it wasn't going to be that way, but it is. Sometimes it's like that, people. Sometimes it's like that. So, I'm going to have videos of, I think I'm going to do the Freya first, where I think I'm actually going to open this up and maybe show you me actually replacing these caps in here live. We'll do it live. We'll do it live! We'll do it live. And I can show you how to open this up and show you what you have to do to get the top off. Then this one, it's easier. This doesn't have these little buttons. See, this has buttons like this. Whatever. This is kind of nice too. Watch out for those videos if that sounds appealing to you. Like and subscribe. You don't have to like to see those, but you know. Listen, these caps aren't cheap, man. These caps are expensive. So subscribe, people. Doing this for you. I'm doing audio research by putting overpriced capacitors to replace capacitors that work perfectly well to see if it sounds any better. And you know what? It probably won't. And I'll probably have wasted $20 a cap, and my time, and your time, because you might watch these videos. But guess what? It's science. We're doing science, people. we're starting with our hypothesis. Our hypothesis is that adding these capacitors into these components will make them sound better. Will our hypothesis be proven or disproven? Time will tell. Like, subscribe, click the bell and the buttons down there. And if you like this video, there's going to be a video here you can watch, and a video here that you can watch, and a video here you can watch, and it'll probably be a video to see my thoughts on this, and my thoughts on this. Not my thoughts on this, because you're watching that video right now. What's wrong with you? And then some other video I'll put up over here. Maybe when I put capacitors, I put some of these type of capacitors in my Rogue Phono preamp. You can watch, and I kind of ruin it a little bit. I kind of melt the traces off because the PCBs and Rogue products kind of blow. So you can watch that probably right there. This will be Schiit, Quicksilver, Rogue. Have a good day.